I remember staring at my laptop screen, my hands shaking so bad I could barely scroll. My name was right there. My age, my college. And then, word for word, a description of my body that made me want to crawl out of my own skin. It wasn't just some random creepy story online. It was me, I was the character. And the worst part? Almost 2,000 people had already read it. 2,000 strangers picturing me in ways I couldn't even say out loud without feeling sick. I couldn't breathe. My chest felt tight, my stomach turning as I realized what I was looking at. My roommate, someone I had lived with, eaten breakfast with, laughed with, had written this. He had published it for the world to see, and people were eating it up like it was some kind of entertainment. That was the moment everything changed. That was the night I stopped feeling safe in my own apartment, but to understand how I ended up here, shaking in front of my laptop, disgusted, angry, terrified, I need to go back to the beginning. At first, everything seemed fine. I was 19, in my second year of college, finally starting to feel like I had a rhythm. I shared an off-campus apartment with two people, Emily, who was 20, and Ben, who was also 19. Emily and I clicked instantly. She was outgoing, funny, and had this energy that made everyone feel comfortable. We became friends fast, late-night study sessions, random Target runs, gossiping about classes and crushes. Honestly, she made the apartment feel like home. Then there was Ben. How do I even describe Ben? He wasn't a bad guy. Not dangerous, at least at first. Just odd, socially awkward in a way that made every interaction slightly uncomfortable. He never really looked people in the eye. He spoke in this monotone voice like every conversation was a lecture. And he spent almost all his time in his room, on his computer with the door closed. I thought he was harmless. Weird, but harmless. Emily and I used to joke about him a little, nothing cruel, just observations. Like how he'd emerge at 2 a.m. to microwave Hot Pockets. Or how he'd stand in the kitchen and stare into the fridge for minutes without taking anything out. But looking back, there were signs. One night, early in the semester, Emily and I were watching a movie on the couch. Ben walked in, saw us laughing, and said something that froze me. "You two remind me of characters I'm writing about," he muttered, almost to himself. I remember exchanging a look with Emily, then forcing a laugh. "Oh yeah? What kind of characters?" I asked, trying to be polite. "You'll see," he said. Then he went back to his room. At the time, I didn't think much of it. I figured he was just into creative writing, maybe some kind of nerdy world building. I honestly thought it was kind of cool he had a hobby. I didn't know that I was the hobby. Fast forward a few months, life felt normal. Classes, coffee runs, nights staying up too late with Emily. Then, one afternoon, I was in the kitchen making ramen when Emily walked in. I'll never forget her face. She looked pale, like she'd just seen something she couldn't unsee. "Hey," she said softly, almost too carefully. Ben showed me something. Something you probably need to know about." I froze. "What do you mean?" She hesitated. "He's been writing a fanfiction, and, you're in it, like, you're the main character." I laughed at first because it sounded ridiculous. "Wait, what? Like he wrote a story about me? That's weird, but..." "No," Emily cut me off. Her voice dropped lower. "It's not just a story. It's really explicit, like disturbingly detailed. And it's definitely you. He used your name, your age, even our college. It's already online. And people are reading it." I felt my stomach drop. "What the hell are you talking about?" I whispered. "You should just read it," she said, and she gave me the link. That night, alone in my room, I clicked the link. I thought maybe Emily was exaggerating. That maybe it would just be some silly, cringeworthy writing. Something I could laugh off, but no. The second I started reading, my blood went cold. It wasn't just based on me. It was me, my hair, my height, my exact outfits, things I had actually worn around the apartment. He had even described the chipped nail polish on my fingers from the week before. And then, the story shifted into something I can't even fully describe here. Graphic, violent, sexual in a way that made me want to slam my laptop shut, but I couldn't look away. Every sentence was like another violation. Like he had taken pieces of me, things I thought were private, and twisted them into something disgusting. And the comments. God, the comments people were praising it. Saying things like, "So realistic," and "Feels like I know this girl." Some even asked for more details about my life. That's when I realized how dangerous this was. This wasn't just a creepy roommate fantasy. This was out in the world. People were imagining me. People who might even go to our campus, and almost 2,000 of them had already read it. I slammed my laptop shut, my whole body shaking. My heart was racing, my throat tight like I was going to cry or throw up or both. This wasn't just weird anymore. This was dangerous. My name, my age, my school, it was all out there. If the wrong person saw this, I could get hurt, and the worst part? I still had to sleep under the same roof as the guy who wrote it. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, one thought looping in my head like a broken record. How the hell do I confront him about this? The next morning, everything felt different. It was like the walls of the apartment had shifted overnight. The same kitchen, the same furniture, the same ugly carpet in the hallway, but suddenly it felt hostile. Unsafe. I avoided leaving my room for as long as I could. My stomach growled, but I couldn't bring myself to walk past his door. Just the thought of seeing him, of him looking at me like nothing had happened, made my skin crawl. When I finally did step out, Emily was at the table, scrolling on her phone. She looked up and immediately read my face. "You saw it," she said quietly. I nodded, sinking into the chair across from her. "It's worse than you made it sound." She reached out, squeezing my hand. "I know, I didn't want to tell you everything. I didn't want to put those images in your head." "I don't know what to do," I whispered. "I can't just live here like this isn't happening." And right on cue, Ben's door creaked open. He walked out, yawning, wearing the same faded hoodie he always wore. He shuffled past us to the fridge like nothing was wrong. Like he hadn't just exposed me to thousands of strangers online. I couldn't even look at him. My whole body went rigid, my nails digging into my palm under the table. Emily gave me this look, half warning, half question. Like, "Are you gonna say something?" But I couldn't. My throat closed up. My heart pounded so loud I was sure he could hear it. Ben poured himself a glass of milk, muttered something about needing to update his next chapter, and disappeared back into his room. Next chapter. My stomach dropped. He was still writing. For the next 2 days, I couldn't focus on anything else. Not classes. Not sleep, not food. Just this gnawing panic that wouldn't go away. What if someone recognized me? What if a classmate read it and connected the dots? What if a professor saw it? What if people whispered about me behind my back and I never even knew? I kept checking the story compulsively, refreshing the page, watching the view count climb. 2,000, 2,100, 22. He wasn't just leaving it up, he was updating it. Every time I checked, there was more. More details, more comments, more disgusting scenarios where I was the unwilling star, and the comments got worse too. Some users asked if he had inspiration pics. Others begged him to leak her socials. One even said, "This feels too real. Bet she's hot IRL." I slammed my laptop shut so hard I thought I cracked the screen. I wasn't just some faceless character anymore. I was becoming a fetish. A fantasy. And the longer I stayed silent, the more dangerous it felt. By the third night, Emily had had enough. She barged into my room, arms crossed, her face set in determination. "We can't just sit on this," she said. "I know," I groaned, burying my face in my hands. "But what do I even do? Do I go to him? Do I call the cops? Do I tell the landlord? What if it just makes everything worse?" Emily sat down next to me. "You can't live in fear of him. He's already crossed a line. A massive line. You have to confront him." The word confront made my stomach twist. I pictured knocking on his door, his blank stare as I accused him. What if he got defensive? What if he got angry? What if he denied everything and made me look crazy? But the alternative was worse. Sitting here while he kept writing, kept publishing, kept feeding strangers details about me. Emily must have seen the war in my head because she softened a little. "I'll be right there with you. You don't have to do it alone." We waited until the next evening when he was in the living room scrolling through his laptop. He barely noticed us at first, just nodded in that half-aware way he always did. "Hey, Ben," Emily started cautiously. He looked up. "Yeah?" I could feel my pulse in my throat. My mouth went dry. Emily nudged me under the table. I swallowed hard. "We need to talk." "About what?" he asked, like he was genuinely confused. My hands trembled. "About the stories. The fan fiction." For the first time, I saw something flicker across his face. Not shame, not embarrassment. Just surprise. Like he hadn't expected me to find out. "You read it?" he asked slowly, my voice cracked. "Of course I read it. It's about me. You use my name, my age, my college. Do you realize how messed up that is?" He blinked. "It's not you. It's just inspired by you. That's what writers do. They use inspiration. Inspiration?" My voice rose. "You described my body, my clothes, my life. People online know more about me than I ever wanted anyone to know, because you put it there. That's not inspiration. That's obsession." He shifted uncomfortably but didn't look guilty. If anything, he looked annoyed. "You're overreacting," he muttered. "No one knows it's you." "It's just fiction." "No one cares." I felt my hands curl into fists. 2,000 people care? 2,000 people are reading and imagining me because of what you wrote. Do you understand how unsafe that makes me feel? Emily jumped in, her voice sharp. You need to take it down, Ben. Now. Silence. He looked between us, his jaw tightening, and then he said something that chilled me to the bone. Why should I take it down? He asked flatly. It's the best thing I've ever written. People love it, maybe. You should be flattered. My whole body froze. Emily's eyes widened. Flattered. That word echoed in my head, twisting like a knife. I realized then, he didn't think he'd done anything wrong. He didn't care about my fear, my privacy, my safety. He thought I should be grateful. And that's when I knew this wasn't just a creepy roommate problem anymore. This was something darker. Something that could destroy me if I didn't act fast. The word flattered wouldn't leave my head. That night, I couldn't sleep. I just kept hearing it on repeat, like a broken record. Flattered. Flattered. As if I should thank him for turning me into his puppet. As if I should smile while thousands of strangers pictured me in ways that made my skin crawl. I stared at the ceiling, fists clenched under the blanket. I wasn't flattered. I was violated. The next week was a blur. I stopped feeling like myself. Walking across campus, I'd catch people glancing at me and I'd panic. Did they know? Did they read it? Were they looking at me because of my clothes? Or because they'd already read about me wearing them in his disgusting story? I avoided the cafeteria. I stopped raising my hand in class. I even stopped wearing outfits I liked, sticking to baggy hoodies and sweatpants, because suddenly it felt like everything I wore could become his inspiration. Emily kept trying to comfort me, but I could see the fear in her eyes too. She didn't want to leave me alone in the apartment. She started locking her door at night. Ben, meanwhile, acted like nothing had changed. He'd shuffle into the kitchen, pour cereal, scroll through his laptop. Sometimes he'd mutter to himself about plot ideas. Once, I swear I heard him typing in the middle of the night, fast. Like his fingers couldn't keep up with his mind. It was like living with a stranger who was secretly holding my life in his hands. Then it got worse. I shouldn't have checked again. I told myself I was done looking. But the curiosity ate at me until I couldn't resist. And there it was. A new chapter, only this time it wasn't just me. It was Emily too. I felt my stomach flip as I read. The descriptions were spot on. Her hair, her voice, the way she wore her favorite oversized sweater. He had dragged her into this sick fantasy world with me. I slammed my laptop shut, heart racing. I almost didn't want to tell her. I didn't want to ruin her sense of safety. But I knew I had to. When I showed her, she went pale. What the hell is wrong with him? She whispered. I didn't have an answer. All I knew was that this was spiraling. Fast. After that, I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Every time I walked from the shower to my room, I checked the hallway, paranoid that he was lurking. When I studied in the living room, I felt his eyes on me, even when his door was closed. One night, I thought I heard his phone camera click. Just a faint sound, but enough to make my blood run cold. I whipped around, but his door was already shut. I told myself I was imagining things. That I was just paranoid. But deep down, I wasn't sure. Because how else was he getting these details? Some of the stuff he wrote I had only done inside the apartment. Alone. It was like he had been cataloging me. Recording me. Emily and I decided to try one more time. We cornered him in the kitchen, this time determined not to back down. Ben, this has to stop, Emily said firmly. You crossed a line with me now, too. If you don't take it down, we're going to the school. He looked up from his cereal, expression flat. You're overreacting again. It's just fiction. Fiction doesn't use our names, our school, our lives, I snapped. My voice shook, but the anger burned through me. You're exposing us to strangers. Do you have any idea how dangerous that is? He shrugged. No one's going to connect it to you. People don't care that much. You're not that special. The words hit me like a slap. Not that special. Then why did he write hundreds of pages about me? Why did he know the pattern of my socks, the sound of my laugh, the way I pushed my hair behind my ear when I was nervous? He cared. Way too much. After he left the room, Emily turned to me. Okay, he's not going to stop. We need to do something else. Like what? I asked bitterly. She hesitated, then lowered her voice. We could report him. To the school. Or the site. Or even the police. The idea made my chest tighten. Reporting him meant blowing this whole thing open. It meant admitting out loud what he'd written. It meant people in authority would read it, maybe even more strangers than before, but it also meant it might finally stop. That night, I couldn't sleep again. My brain spun in circles. Report him. Don't report him. Stay quiet. Run away. Finally, I sat up, grabbed my laptop, and went back to the site. I wanted to see if maybe he had taken it down on his own, but no. It was still there. And worse, the story had blown up. The view count had doubled. There were entire forums sharing it, speculating about who the real girl might be. And then buried in the comments, I saw something that made my blood run cold. A username I didn't recognize had posted. "I think I know who this is. She goes to our college. I've seen her before." And the replies. Dozens of strangers asking for proof. For pictures. For links. I felt my chest tighten until I could barely breathe. It was happening. The nightmare scenario I'd been afraid of, it was starting. People were connecting the dots, and if one person recognized me, how long before everyone did? I slammed my laptop shut and stumbled back, hands shaking so badly I nearly dropped it. This wasn't just about a creepy roommate anymore. This was about my reputation, my safety, my entire future. I could already feel it unraveling, and deep down, one terrifying thought settled into my mind. If strangers were already looking for me, what if Ben helped them find me? I couldn't keep this quiet anymore. That comment I saw online, the stranger who claimed they recognized me, haunted me. Every time my phone buzzed, I jumped. Every time someone laughed on campus, I wondered if it was about me. And Ben? He carried on like nothing was wrong. Like my whole life wasn't unraveling because of him. I knew I couldn't let this go. If I stayed silent, it was only going to get worse. The next day, Emily found me curled up on the couch, still in my hoodie from the night before. "You look like hell," she said softly. "I feel like hell," I muttered. "Someone online said they know who I am. They're trying to expose me." Emily's face hardened. "That's it. We're not asking him anymore. We're done being polite. If he won't stop, we'll make him stop." The way she said it sent a shiver down my spine. "How?" I asked. She sat down beside me. "We report him, to the site, to the school, to whoever will listen. And if that doesn't work, we go to the police." I hesitated, my throat tight. But what if it makes it worse? What if he gets mad? What if he retaliates? Emily didn't flinch. "Then we deal with it. But doing nothing is killing you. I can see it. And honestly, it's killing me too." I looked at her, at the determination in her eyes. And for the first time in weeks, I felt a flicker of something other than fear. Resolve. We didn't wait. That evening, when Ben came out of his room with his usual blank expression, Emily and I were waiting in the living room. "Sit down," Emily said firmly. He frowned. "Why?" "Just sit," she snapped. Something in her voice must have gotten through, because he obeyed. He sat across from us, his laptop under one arm, expression annoyed. I took a deep breath, my hands shaking. "We're not asking anymore. You're going to delete the story, all of it, every single word, right now." He blinked at me like I was being dramatic. "I told you before, it's not about you. You're imagining things." "Don't play dumb," Emily cut in. "You used her name, her age, her college. You even wrote about me now. People online are trying to figure out who she is. Do you get how serious this is?" His jaw tightened. "It's just fiction." "Stop calling it that," I snapped, my voice breaking. "It's my life. You're putting my body, my privacy, my safety out there for strangers to pick apart. And now they're looking for me. Do you want me to get stalked? Do you want me to get hurt?" His face twitched, just a little, the first crack in his emotionless mask. But instead of guilt, it looked like irritation. "You're overreacting," he muttered. "You should be grateful. People like the character. People like you." That word again. Grateful. Flattered. I felt heat rise in my chest. "No, Ben. I'm not grateful. I'm terrified. And if you don't delete it, we're going to the school. And the police. And your life will never be the same again." Silence hung heavy in the room. Finally, he laughed. A short, bitter laugh that made my stomach twist. "You think anyone's gonna take you seriously? You think they'll believe you over me? You're just some girl with a victim complex." Something in me snapped. I stood up so fast the chair scraped across the floor. "Victim complex? You've been cataloging me like I'm some lab rat. You've been publishing my life online for perverts to drool over. Do you have any idea what you've done to me?" Emily stood too, her voice shaking with fury. "You're a predator, Ben. That's what you are. You can sit there with your blank little face and pretend you're just a writer, but you're not. You're a creep who doesn't respect boundaries, privacy, or basic human decency." Ben's expression hardened. "You don't get it. This is my art, my work. It's mine. You can't take it away from me." Art. I almost laughed, but instead I stepped closer, staring him down. My voice dropped, steady and cold. If you don't delete it by tomorrow, I'm turning everything over. The link, the screenshots, the comments, all of it. And you'll be the one who's exposed. Not me. His face darkened. For the first time, he looked dangerous. Not just awkward or odd, dangerous. You don't want to do that, he said quietly. The way he said it made the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. That night, I locked my door. For the first time since moving in, I shoved a chair under the handle. My hands shook as I set my phone by my bed, ready to call 911 if I heard anything. I lay awake, staring at the door, half expecting it to rattle, half expecting him to try and come in, and when I finally did drift off, I had nightmares. Dreams of footsteps in my room, of his cold voice whispering, "You should be grateful," while I froze, unable to move. I woke up in a sweat, heart racing, convinced someone had been watching me. And then I noticed something. My desk drawer was slightly open. I never leave it open. Inside was where I kept my journals, private, handwritten entries I'd never shown anyone. And when I pulled one out, my blood ran cold. The bookmark was in the wrong place. That's when I realized he hadn't just been watching me. He had been inside my room. The stories weren't just inspired by what he saw in the living room or in class. He had been stealing details from the most private parts of my life. And if he'd already crossed that line, how far would he go next? I couldn't breathe. My journal lay open in my lap, and I stared at the shifted bookmark, the pages slightly bent, the faint smudge on the margin that wasn't mine. He had been in my room, not just watching me in the kitchen, not just listening through the walls. He had crossed into my private space, into the one place I thought I was safe. I felt sick. Violated in a way I can't fully put into words. That was it. That was the line. He wasn't just creepy anymore. He was dangerous. When Emily came home, she found me pacing the living room, clutching my journal like a lifeline. "He's been in my room," I said. My voice cracked. He read my journals. "Emily, he's been inside." Her face went pale. For a second, she didn't say anything, just shook her head in disbelief. Then she straightened, eyes hard. "We're done here," she said. "We're not waiting another second. We're reporting him. Tonight." I nodded, trembling, but resolute. We gathered everything. Screenshots of the fanfiction, the comments, the timestamps. Photos of my journal with the misplaced bookmark. Emily even had a voice memo she'd recorded secretly during our last confrontation, where he admitted, "It's my art, and people like the character." It wasn't just our word against his anymore. We had proof. With Emily by my side, I dialed campus security first. My voice shook as I explained, stumbling over the words, but once the screenshots were emailed over, the tone on the other end changed. "This is serious," the officer said. "Stay in your room with the door locked. We'll be there shortly." I hung up, my chest heaving. Emily squeezed my hand. "You're okay. You did the right thing." For the first time in weeks, I believed her. Campus security showed up fast. They questioned Ben in his room. I could hear his muffled voice through the walls, insisting, "It's just fiction," over and over, but when they brought him out, laptop in hand, his face wasn't blank anymore. It was twisted with anger. He glared at me, eyes cold, like I had ruined his masterpiece, and maybe I had. Good. They escorted him out, and just like that, the apartment felt lighter. Like some heavy, toxic cloud had finally lifted, but it wasn't over yet. The next weeks were a whirlwind. The school launched an investigation. Ben was removed from campus housing. Word spread quietly, but not nearly as loud as I had feared. Most people never connected the dots. The site finally took down his writing after we filed reports. Some of the copies floating around disappeared too, though I know the internet is forever. Still, at least the link that had haunted me for weeks now just read, "This page no longer exists." The relief I felt when I saw those words, it was like I could finally breathe again. Emily and I moved into a new apartment together. A place with better locks. A place where I could sleep without checking my door 5 times first. It took me a long time to feel normal again. For weeks, I still jumped at shadows. I still caught myself scanning faces in the cafeteria, paranoid someone knew. I even stopped writing in my journals, too scared they might be stolen again. But slowly, with Emily's help, I started to heal. I started going out again, wearing the clothes I wanted, laughing without wondering if someone was taking mental notes. And one day, I pulled out a fresh notebook. I stared at the blank page for a long time. My hand shook as I picked up the pen, but then I started to write, not for him, Not for anyone online, but for me. For the girl who survived it. For the girl who learned how to fight back. Looking back now, it feels surreal. Ben thought I should be flattered. That I should accept being turned into his puppet because it was art. But I wasn't flattered. I was violated. And I'm proud of myself for refusing to stay quiet. Sometimes people cross lines so casually, so thoughtlessly, that they don't even see the damage they cause. And sometimes they see it, and just don't care. But the one thing I learned through all of this is that silence only protects the abuser. Speaking up, even when it feels terrifying, is the only thing that protects you. Because the truth is, predators don't stop unless someone makes them. And that someone, in my case, had to be me, and I'll never, ever let anyone take my voice away again. So no, Ben, I wasn't flattered, I was furious. And I fought back. And I won.